What are complementary and supplementary angles in geometry? So complementary angles are basically just any angles that add up to 90 degrees. So for example, if you had one angle that was 50 degrees, and then you had another angle that was 40 degrees, 50 plus 40 is 90. So these two angles would be complementary. A really easy way to see if angles are complementary is if they make a right angle. They might not be separated like this. They might just be a right angle. That's one where you can draw a box inside. That's 90 degrees. And then sometimes there will just be a line in the middle of it, and it will make two angles. Here's one angle, and here's another angle. These two angles would be complementary. Now, what about supplementary angles? Well, those are exactly the same as complementary angles, except they add up to 180. So for example, let's say you had an angle that was 110 degrees, and then you had another angle that was 70 degrees. Well, 110 plus 70 is 180, so those are supplementary. And there's an easy way to see if angles are supplementary as well. A 90-degree angle is a right angle, but 180 degrees is a straight line. So if you see just a straight line like this, and there's a line in the middle, it makes two angles. Here's one angle, and here's another angle. These angles would be supplementary because they add up to a straight line, 180. So now that we know what complementary and supplementary angles are, let's go ahead and do a couple example problems involving them. So here's our first example problem. We can see that angles A and B are complementary, and the measure of angle A is 35 degrees. What is angle B? So the key word here is complementary. And if you remember, complementary angles add up to 90 degrees because supplementary is 180. So we know that angle A and angle B added together have to be 90 degrees. But we know that angle A is 35 degrees. So we can replace angle A with 35. So we need to figure out what the measure of angle B is. And there are two ways we can think about this. The first way is to just know that you need to subtract. So if you're taking out 35 degrees from the total of 90, that's 90 minus 35. So if angle A is taking out 35 degrees, that leaves 55 degrees left over for angle B. So 55 is the answer. Or if you wanted, you could think about it like an algebra problem. So we're trying to get angle B by itself. So we just need to get rid of this 35. So I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides. So these cancel out. On the left side, we just have angle B. And I guess technically this would be the measure of angle B. Like that's what the little m means. And then 90 minus 35 is 55. So that's another way that you could have gotten the answer. So here's another example. For this one, we need to find the measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 2. So we have two angles to find. But in this case, it sort of gives us the measures already, but they have x in them. They're not just a number. So it only makes sense that to figure out the measures of angle 1 and 2, we should probably solve for x, figure out what x is equal to, and then plug it in. Now, at the beginning of this video, I talked about how an easy way to see if angles are supplementary is if they make a straight line, because a straight line is 180 degrees. And in this case, they do. There's a straight line here, and there are two angles. So these are going to add up to 180. So we know that angle 1 is 3x. We know that angle 2 is just x. And we know that they have to add up to 180 degrees. So we can write this as an algebra problem and solve for x. So angle 1, which is 3x, and angle 2, which is x, need to add up to 180. And we have two terms here that both have x, so we can combine them. We can combine like terms. So 3x plus x, we have 3, we're adding another one, so that's 4x. And that's going to be equal to 180 degrees. Now we just need to solve for x, and this is a multiplication here. This is 4 times x. So I'm going to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division, to get x by itself. So the 4's cancel out. On the left side, we just have x. And on the right side, we have 180 divided by 4. If you put that in your calculator, you should get 45. So we know that x is equal to 45. But remember that solving for x was not the question. The question was find the measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 2. So this actually tells us what the measure of angle 2 is, because it says that angle 2 is just x, and x is 45. So the measure of angle 2 is equal to 45 degrees. So what about angle 1 over here? That's equal to 3x, or 3 times x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace x with 45 and see what we get. So the measure of angle 1 is equal to 3 times 45. And if you put that in your calculator, you should get 135 degrees. So we've solved the problem. The measure of angle 1 is 135, and the measure of angle 2 is 45. And if you weren't sure, you could check your work by adding these together. You should end up with 180 because they're supplementary angles. So now you know what complementary and supplementary angles are and how to solve problems involving them. But one of the things that trips up a lot of students involving angles is naming them because it comes up all the time. So if you're not sure how to name angles, you can watch this video right here. And as always, if you have any questions about this video, go ahead and leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to answer your question. Thanks for watching.